Hi, good afternoon. Tammie Schrader here, and I want to talk to you today about games as used in education. And tonight, this is our pilot. So, what I want to talk to you tonight about is the why. Why use games and why in education? So, I'm going to just start with a little story. A long, long time ago in a faraway land, about 15 years ago, I was a classroom teacher, and it was state testing time. It was May. State testing time. And I had a young man, his name is Tim, and he's in my 7th grade life science classroom. And I am trying to engage Tim at a time when it's spring and he does not always want to do the work that I would like him to do, right, as a teacher. But one of the things I did, because I knew that we were in the middle of testing and they were always pulling kids out for science, and I thought, oh, kids are going to be transient. They're going to come in, they're going to come out. And so I assigned these kids a job to make games. And in my mind, I just want you to know I'm a big board gamer. I'm thinking Monopoly. I'm thinking, whatever, tic-tac-toe, whatever. And Tim walks in the day after I assign it, and he puts a thumb drive in my hand, and he says, "Here you go, Mrs. Schrader." And I said, "Oh, Tim, do you want me to print money? What do you want me to do? Print instructions?" And he goes, "No, I hacked into Mario." And I have to tell you, my first thought is, I think that might be illegal. And my second thought is, what do I care? Tim did the work. I don't care. So I hook this game up into I have a smart board on the side of my room, and I hook it up. And what I noticed was that not every kid in my class, even every kid in the building heard about this game within 24 hours, and they were coming in to play this game. Now I'm going to tell you about Mario. I had never met Mario before then. And what was great is, I don't know if you know Mario, but Mario runs and he jumps up and there's a coin there. And a question would pop up, and if the kid got the question right, he gets the coin. If he gets it wrong, he goes down a chute. And I had kids knocking on my door before school and after school and at lunchtime. And my first thought was, they don't do this for my science lessons. And let me tell you something, as a science teacher, I blew stuff up. Like, I'm a fun teacher. And I thought, this is interesting to me. And what I really found fascinating about the game is that they would continue to just try over and over and over. That was also not true of my science experiments. Like, they would be doing an experiment, and if it didn't go the way they wanted it to, they'd go, this doesn't work. I can't do this the first time. And that wasn't true when they would play this game. They would just go over and over and over, right? And I found that fascinating. And I started doing a little work on that. And what I found was that there's a lady named Jane McGonigal. You may have heard of her, Dr. Jane McGonigal. And she wrote a book, and I was looking at her work, and she said the thing about games, and she has this great picture of this kid. And she said, this kid's face looks like he is on the verge of an epic win. And what an epic win is when you're trying and trying and trying, and you finally get it, right? And we all know that feeling. We're trying to learn something new. We're trying to do something new. And all of a sudden, ride a bike, cook the perfect pie. I don't care what you're trying to do in life. When you finally get it right, that's the look, right? It's like, yes. And I found out that game theory, this is going to shock you now, game theory isn't even new. It's not new. We've been using it forever. And what I love about games is that kids will try and try and try, and they don't call it failure when they don't win. They just keep going, right? And so I started using games in classrooms back then, and I was a little nervous, I'll be honest, because my first thought was, you know what? Kids are going to get on some of these video games, and I'm not going to just talk about video games in education. I'm also going to talk about board games and game experiences. And the biggest reason that I want to talk about the games that I think they bring to a classroom is a gentleman named Dr. James Paul G. said, all learning is experiential. And I'm not trying to be rude, but experiences aren't happening on worksheets, right? And they're not happening in a text. And I'm not minimizing either one of those tools. They're great tools in a time and a place. But let me tell you, games are experiential. And so I brought in a video game, and my biggest fear was this. Kids are going to do this. I do not need kids zoned into a screen any more than they already are. And I was nervous about that. So one day we're playing a game called Crazy Plant Shop. And what Crazy Plant Shop is kids come in, they they log in and they own a plant shop. And they have all these lovely scientists come in and request, as scientists are the customers, and they request certain plants. Well, the only way to get plants is to cross them, right? And they can use the dominant traits and the recessive traits, and they can do all these things. Well, what was great about this game is I got a whole classroom in a studio full of kids doing this. And my favorite thing that happened when the kid in the corner, the very corner up at the top, he figures out how to make a cat cactus. Now, these aren't real plants, but I can tell you the cat cactus had some kind of rainbow coming out. I don't remember. But what I remember is the kid in the corner figures it out. And let me tell you, within a half a second, the kid in the back of the corner, they want to know how it was done. And they are yelling back. And I don't mean mayhem. I'm just talking about it goes around like wildfire. And then all these kids are like, how do we get the cat cactus? And then they're having conversations like this across my classroom. Hey, are you using those dominant alleles or the recessive ones? And what did you match? And how did it work? And they're having all these great genetic conversations using appropriate genetic language to build the cactus that's not even real. And part of me in my mind is going, you guys, this cactus isn't even real. Like that. But here's what I've learned as a classroom teacher. It was probably one of the most powerful things that somebody ever said to me. You don't get to pick what motivates kids. And you know what else? You don't get to pick what motivates anybody. So the job as a teacher is to find out what motivates these kids and let them go do that thing. And these cactuses, I'm just telling you right now, they're motivating kids. So the kids are just coming back and forth and going and going and going. And it's just this fabulous, amazing experience, even for me, listening to these kids have authentic conversations with genuine vocabulary that geneticists made up so that we could have conversations. It was fabulous. And then the other thing occurred to me. Why do I use games? Would I use games in a classroom if I could instead give kids a live hands-on experience? And the answer is, if I could give kids a hands-on live experience, probably not. However, there are things I can't recreate in my classroom. There are things I can't do. The biggest one I can't do is space, right? I can't recreate the universe in my classroom. No matter how hard I try, the distances between planets is so large, and the distance of out in the universe is so big that I need football fields, and I need that, and I can't recreate that. Well, they've got video games that will help kids learn about space, and it will be like accurate, and they can experience that accurately. The other thing I can't create in my classroom is time. When we played that cactus game, and we played that the plant game, I can't recreate 12 generations of plants inside a small amount of time so that kids can see what genes got passed on, right, from the parent plants to the kid plants, right? So I can't do that in a classroom. So you know what? They have games where I can have generations of plants or generations of people, and we can start looking at heredity and genetics and how that works over lifetimes, right? It's fabulous. And then there's another thing I know this is going to shock you too. We don't have a lot of money in education. And so there was a time, believe it or not, it's around Halloween, and I know you're going to be surprised by this, but we wanted something to do with all those old pumpkins that we carved, right? And the kids are like, let's build catapults. I'm like, yeah, that's great. It's all science. So I want to teach them how to build catapults, but what I don't have is the money or the space to host iterations of catapults. Like, and you and I both know that we will have a lot of iterations of these catapults. They're never going to go with the first one they build. That's not how science works. So what happens is we get them onto a video game. It's called Backyard. I can't remember the second name. Sorry about that. Anyway, so they're in this video game, and they're building these catapults so that they can have these, backyard war thing, or whatever you call it, right? And what was great is they learned about stability. They learned about mobility of catapults. They learned all about the give and take of decisions that you make while you're building the catapult. So then they designed on this game their perfect catapults. And then we built them in the classroom, right? So now I am not spending a ton of money on supplies for kids to be able to do this. They can just do this. And it's fabulous and powerful, and it's wonderful. And then they go out and they build the real catapults, and we chuck pumpkins. And of course, we get the administration's approval or not, whatever happened. I don't know. Anyway, fun. It was all about fun. And you know what? I'm going to just tell you my favorite things about games. Not only are they experiential, they are the F word. My favorite F word, fun. Games are fun because if they're not fun, we're not playing them. Okay? The other thing I wanted to talk about games and why they're so significant, especially in education, is the word for me is equity. Every civilization since the beginning of time has played games. They find games when they dig up ancient artifacts from other civilizations that lived long before us. And my favorite thing is, right, it's an equity issue. All cultures have games, various games that they play. And there's a reason for that, right? And one day, I'll tell you, chess, my favorite all time. By the way, chess is the #1 board game played, hands down, across time. And my favorite thing about chess that I didn't know until I started getting into this game thing is the chess pieces have changed over time. And the chess pieces have changed across civilizations. When they dug up, artifacts, they found that different civilizations use different game pieces at different stages of the as the civilizations advanced. Did you know that the queen used to be the least powerful piece on the chessboard? And what I found really intriguing was she became the most powerful piece on the board when the queens in England started gaining power. When the queens in England and Europe started gaining power and women started gaining more power, the queen became the most powerful chess piece on the board, right? So games change, and also games can be changed to work with kids. And it's an equity issue as well as a diversity issue, right? Bringing in games that teach about civilizations and cultures. And that's another thing that I cannot reproduce in a classroom. I cannot reproduce cultures, and I cannot reproduce civilizations that have come before us, right? But I can tell you that they have great games that teach that, and they're powerful. One of my favorite games is called Happy Atoms by Shell. The Shell gaming industry built it. And I have to tell you, had I played that game about atoms that I can't even see, had I played that game, I might have done better in chemistry in college, right? Because to me, these atoms are these things I can't see, and I'm trying to visualize whatever it is they do. And I can't do that. And I can't see them. And you can imagine schools, not a lot of money. I don't have a microscope that will even come close to showing me anything like an atom, right? And if I had had Happy Atom game, I think I would have done a more powerful job in helping other people and other students, other kids, see about how things work, how chemistry works, right? Because that is not my superpower. So what I really want to say today is I'm really thrilled about using games in education. They're experiential. They don't take up a lot of space. I can do amazing amounts of things over time. By the way, there is a game out there, like I think about the state of our climate and our world. There are a suite of games out there by a company called Immerse Games. And what they do is they let kids go in and they give the kids a planet. They hand them the planet and they say, do what you want with it. Increase the rainfall, decrease it, heat it up, cool it down, do whatever. And the kids get to go in there. And what I love is it gives kids data on what will happen to their planet. Right now, when I think about the state of the earth and I think about how our planet, we're overpopulating it and all the issues we're facing, I think about, man, isn't that a powerful tool? Students can go in, they can muck around with this planet and totally destroy it online and then make reasonable decisions based on their future and our planet's future. So I just want to say how amazing it has been to be with you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for spending time with me. We'll be back again in a few months talking about some other things that are about game-based learning. And I hope you have a fabulous afternoon. Tammie Schrader, have a great evening.